Hey everyone, it's Mari Clark. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I have a couple of projects here today for you for a YouTube hop with the Ton Stamp Company, and this is for their February 2020 release. I have some amazing products to share with you here today, including this first one that I'm going to show you, which is called Confetti Borders. This is a 4x6 stamp set that includes two borders. You can see there the stars at the top and then the bubbles at the bottom. And then there's a whole bunch of larger words like thank, happy, congrats, and best, and then some smaller sentiments like you very much, wishes, and birthday. So thank you very much, happy birthday, best wishes, congrats, etc. So that's a very cool set. I also received the Roma Alphas 4x6 set as part of this release as well. You can see there's some solid alphas as well as some outlined alphas. Also on this stamp set, there is a hashtag, a question mark, there's a period, and then a slash or dash. There's also a couple sizes of heart stamps on this stamp set as well. So that is awesome. I love that. And I also have here the Modern Alphas cover plate die, and this is amazing. You'll see how I use this in a couple of different ways here on my project today, but I absolutely love this die set. And so you just put this down using your die cutting machine and you end up with a ton of different alphas that you can use on your project. So really love that cover plate as well. You can see that there's actually two lines of vowels at the top and then the rest of the consonants, and just totally love that set. Now this last set I'm going to show you is just totally amazing. It's called the Peony Memories Scrapbook Stamp Set. It's a 9x12 set. And I can't even believe all of these different sentiments that are part of this stamp set here that you can see. I'm just showing you all of the different phrases. I feel like this would be not only really great for memory keeping, but also for planning. For planners, you can see there's a label stamp there, and all of the different sentiments fit inside of that. The smaller sentiments fit inside that label. And then there's a larger word, currently. This is amazing, and this is the die that goes along with this. And so the way that the stamps work, and I'm going to show you this in this video, but the way that it works is when you use the die, it actually cuts out all of the florals and the leaves at the same time. So this is amazing. And I can't wait to show this to you and how I use all of these different products today. So I'm going to start out here using my MISTI. I have a piece of Neenah Solar White cardstock in 80 pound in my MISTI. And I have the first floral set in the steps of stamping out these different florals. So these are layering stamps, and you stamp out your lightest color first with the most solid image, and so then that allows you to layer the other images on top. I'm just using whatever inks I had in my stash, and I wanted to stamp out some pinks. So you'll see that I'm going in with my lightest pink first there, then I go in with my next darkest tone of ink, and so on and so forth, creating the different layers. So I just wanted to make sure I had a really nice solid impression here with my first stamp. So I'm just going to lay that down a couple of times. Now, this is the second layer, and you'll notice it's genius that the Ton has created these stamps so that there's little lines on the outer edges, these little boxes that allow you to line up the stamp with the previous layer so that you never ever misstamp it, if you know what I mean. So this is really great with my MISTI, my repositionable tool. It allows me to just get a perfect image every time. So now I'm going in with my next color, and you can see how it adds that next layer of dimension and detail of the florals. And then lastly, I'll go in with the last one with the darkest color and add the last bit of detail onto these florals. So you can just see how these peonies are coming together. They're so beautiful. If you love stamping with flowers as much as I do, you will absolutely fall in love with this stamp set. As part of this release and this YouTube hop, there is going to be a giveaway. So make sure that you check the description box below at the end, or make sure that you check the description box to get all of the details about the giveaway, because you do not want to miss your chance to win some of this amazing release here. for February over at the Ton. So there you can see I'm just making sure that my final layer is just really nice and strong. And now I'm going to line up the leaves, and genius. Once again, the little marks on the leaves stamp lines up with the lines that are part of that Peony set, so that you actually don't have to go and grab another piece of paper. And of course, the dies are all going to coordinate with this one single sheet. So once again, I'm going to use 3 different colors of green. And there's 3 layers of leaves. So the bottommost layer is my lighter color, my lightest color. I'm going to go in and stamp that out in the solid. Now I'm going to line this up again using the little guides. All of those little guides are provided on each one of the sets of these layering stamps, which is perfect. And I'm going to go in with my next darkest green color. And I used a distress ink, I think, for that first one, but the rest of them are not distress inks. They're these ones happen to be Simon inks, but once again, that's just what I had. So it's just whatever you want to use. Going in with the next darker color there, and now I'm going in with the last color, which I just love how this all coordinates together. So easy to do. And you are going to see what a dream it is to cut these out with the die. You're going to get all of these pieces in one pass with your cutting machine. And I actually did this process twice for my projects today. I wanted to have tons of these florals and leaves for the projects that I wanted to create. So I did it a couple of times so that I had lots to work with here. So now I'm just going to go in and stamp the centers of the flowers. So there's 3 center parts that you can stamp. This largest one, I'm only going to stamp on the largest peony. And then the second size, I'm going to stamp in the center of the 3 other peonies that have an area that's allows for a center to be stamped in it. So there's 3 other spots where I can stamp that. This is the next size of center. And then the last size of floral center that I'm going to use, I'm going to stamp with that kind of orangey tone. And then in that way, it's going to make that center part look even more dimensional. So you'll just be able to see here how that adds just a little bit more detail to my peonies. I love how this looks, and I'm just in love with this stamp set. I think it's gorgeous, and there's so many ways that you can use this, and you can just keep making florals over and over and over again. So I think that the layering stamp sets are genius. So now that's going to be all of the stamping that I have to do here. And oh, I forgot, I am going to stamp in the little stem. So those little berry pieces, those tiny little pieces that look like berries, I'm going to go in now just with a little stem part there, and I'm going to stamp in a stem for those. And that'll be it for the stamping for these pieces. So I'll just get that in there. And now I'm just going to take some Post-it tape, and I'm going to tape down the die around my florals. And oh my gosh, this is so easy to do, guys. It is super easy to line up, and I'm just going to tape it down. And with one pass, I'm going to have all of these different embellishments that I can use on my scrapbooking layout. So I'm super excited. I also am going to use the rest of the pieces for a card today as well. So this is going to be a scrapbooking process and a card making process all in one. I certainly hope that you poured yourself a cup of coffee. If you did not, pause now and go grab one, because this is a fairly long video. So you can see how these are all just gorgeous die cut pieces. Now I wanted to use the confetti borders as well on my scrapbooking layout. I'm also going to use this set on my card as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put another piece of that white cardstock into my MISTI, and I'm going to stamp out the 2 different borders. I wasn't sure which one I wanted to use, but I knew that I wanted to heat emboss these, both of these borders. So I'm going to put them down, and I'm going to actually stamp them out with some just a watermark ink. So whatever you have in your stash, if you've got Versamark, or I think I'm using a Lawn Fawn watermark ink here, which is just a clear sticky ink, and it's going to just leave an impression on your paper, a place for some embossing powder to stick to. So I've used my my anti-static powder tool there just so that my embossing powder only sticks to my ink where I want it to stick rather than to my paper. And now I'm just going to smooth all that out and take some embossing powder here. Now I'm using a really sparkly gold, bright gold embossing powder here that has glitter in it. It's a Wow embossing powder. I will leave these products linked up below if you are looking for some of these things that I'm using. So I am going to just get this spread out all over where I have that ink, and now I'm just going to take my heat tool and melt that embossing powder, and you will just see how beautiful this is. I think it's just lovely, and I wanted my card and my scrapbooking layout just to be really soft and pretty, and that's why I chose to have that, just that really bright sparkly gold. So now I'm taking some Lindy's Stamp Gang Magicals. This color is called Papa Pink. And what I'm using here is a piece of really heavy cardstock. This is Basil Marshmallow cardstock. And I did add some clear gesso to this, and I let it dry before I started it so that the water doesn't destroy the paper. So I just put a little bit of water in my little palette and added some of that Lindy Stamp Gang powder. And then it just kind of makes up a watercolor that you can add. But this isn't just any ordinary watercolor. It's called Magicals because it has different pigments mixed in, and it's got lots of glitter. So I wanted it to be shiny and sparkly. So I'm just adding water to my paper and then adding the pigment and then using my heat tool to dry it. And I also wanted a little bit of yellow in the background as well here and there, because I wanted the yellow of the florals to come out as well. So that center of my peonies is yellow, and I wanted to just use a little bit of yellow in my background. And this yellow is called Yodeling Yellow, and it's also a Lindy Stamp Gang Magical. Now I'm just taking my paintbrush here, and I'm adding a few splatters as well. And I end up off camera making this circle a little bit bigger. And I also added a little bit of that yellow to the left side. Now this is the piece that I did with my confetti border, and I just trimmed it out with a border punch just to give it a little bit of a scallop finish. And now I'm just going to take my photo that I'm going to use today. I've added some craft foam to the back of it to pop it up on my layout, and I just added a little bit of adhesive to the back to stick that down. I'm going to trim out my paper, and I am going to adhere this down to the circle. At first I thought I was going to kind of put it on an angle, but I end up putting it straight, and you'll see that as we go through here. The papers that I'm using here today are from Pink Fresh Studio, and I just really loved that this was just a really pretty light pink, and I wanted to just distress the edges of that paper just a little bit. And I'm going to use that scallop border now at the bottom there as an embellishment. And I just love that sparkly gold and those little bubbles. I ended up using the bubbles one rather than this star one. So the one border is stars and the other one is kind of like little champagne bubbles. And I end up using the bubbles instead, and I'll just save that other piece for another project. So I just really like how it just adds a little bit of shimmery sparkle, and I love how that gold looks with the pink. So I'm going to actually do two little embellishment clusters with my florals on my photo here. So I'll do a little cluster to the top left and another little cluster to the bottom right of the flower. And I wanted to leave an area at the bottom of my photo for my title and an area over to the right of my photo for some journaling. So there you can see how I've used all of the stamps from the release so far. And I'm just loving how this looks. And you can just see I just keep going for more flowers because I've got them all stamped and die cut and ready to go. So I can just keep adding all the little buds and all the tiny little pieces, the larger florals, the leaves. I love it. And I love the combination of that green and yellow and pink. I think it's super, super pretty and really feminine, and it's perfect for this photograph of my daughter and her sister-in-law this was when Bailey was part of the wedding party for her sister-in-law when her brother-in-law and sister-in-law got married. So love this photo of the two of them. I printed it in black and white just so that it would sort of blend in with the the colors that I'm using here today for this project. Now you can just see I'm going in and picking up some of those little bits I love this. I love how this looks. These florals are just stunning. Now I want to show you how you could use any one of these different sentiments here as part of your title if you chose to. There's lots of options, and that's the beauty of having stamps, is you can just keep using them over and over and over again for your projects. They are just so great for that use. And here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take and cut a little bit of a slice off the edge. Don't panic. It's going to be okay. Some of you are probably thinking, why is she doing that? Why is she cutting off her paper? I wanted to create some distressing over to that left side. And this really, really thick paper is really hard to tear. So it's easier to just take it and cut the paper and then distress it from there. And I wanted to use this black and white stripe over on the edge just as a little bit of pop of black. And I'm going to tuck some florals in over in that area as well. So now you can see that the circle of the Lindy Stamp Gang is larger, and you can see that yellow over to the left side. I really like how that looks, and things are really starting to come together for the project. Just going to do a little bit more distressing over on that left edge just to make it look interesting, and adding that pop of black on that side I think just makes the layout come together nicely. I'm going to add a little bit of a layer of black and white paper to the photo mat as well, and you'll see me add that here in just a minute. I'm just working on distressing that paper just to make sure that I like how that distressing is going to look, and then it's just a matter of sticking that black and white paper down to that left edge. Now I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive to this little border piece, and you can see that I've moved the photo over towards the left a little bit. And the reason why is because I want to leave an area there that I'm showing you for my journaling, and so I just wanted to make sure it was balanced in that way. So I like how that's coming together. Now I'm just going to roughly put these pieces onto the layout now, where just to see how things are coming together and where I'm going to put things. I'm definitely going to use lots of dimensional adhesive when I'm sticking these in, and I'm just making sure that I'm leaving enough room at the bottom underneath the photo for where I want my title to go. So just really being aware of that as I'm balancing things out and working on the composition of the layout. And then I'm going to use these alphas, the Roma Alpha set, to create some of for part of my title. So just thinking about how I want to place the florals in that top corner. I don't want to cover up the photo, so I'm just kind of moving them over a little bit. And I've noticed that my photograph kind of came out of place there a little bit, so just fixed that up. And I sliced a little piece of the 6x6 pattern paper in the black and white and added that to the right side of my photo just to complement that black over on the left. Now I am going to stick all of my floral pieces down, and like I said, I really wanted to use a decent amount of foam adhesive on this because the photo is already lifted up off the layout with foam adhesive, and so the floral pieces are going to go up on some foam adhesive as well. And you'll just see I'm just really sticking things in now. I kind of had a really good idea before of where I wanted to put things, so it's just a matter of getting them stuck down, and it's just using a combination of foam adhesive and a little bit of liquid adhesive for the pieces that are going at the bottommost area. Some of the foam I've doubled up on just because if the bottom layer already has foam adhesive on it, you kind of have to make sure that things are dimensional enough to actually stick up off the layout properly. So I'll just work my way around the layout, making sure I have the right amount of foam adhesive on things, and just kind of trying things out in different areas here with the different little floral pieces and leaves, and making sure that I have the balance that I want. And then, like I had said previously, I wanted to put some of the florals in that little peekaboo area over to the left, just because I thought that just really finished that area off nicely. Another thing that I could have done also on this layout was added a little bit of stitching and sewing, but I wasn't really sure. I kind of wanted to, sometimes I have the less is more philosophy about some of these things. I just thought that it had enough. But if you're looking at it and you're thinking, about what else could be added, it is something that you could, if you were to scrap lift this, something else you could do is add a little bit of stitching with your sewing machine. Now I am going to use the Roma Alphas in the open letters, just the outline letters, to spell out the word my. And what I really wanted to do is add some gold to that. And you'll see how I do that here in a minute. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just adding a little bit more paper into my MISTI. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp out that confetti border multiple times, and I'm going to emboss it with that gold again. And I am going to cut out more of my alphas, more of those alphas with the modern alpha cover plate with this embossed paper. So I really love how this turns out. So I'm going to use the bubbly stamp, the one that's kind of got the bubbles rising up. I'm just stamping that out over and over again with my embossing ink, so that once again, this is that clear sticky ink. I'm just going to keep repositioning it over to the left in another strip until I've got 4 or 5 strips here of this same stamp. And then I'm going to heat emboss all of those different strips all at one time with that same really sparkly gold embossing powder. So I'm just going to reach for that embossing powder here. I'll sprinkle that across this paper that I have all stamped up with my embossing ink. And I just absolutely love how this ends up looking. You're going to love it. So I am going to just spread this all out over top of that stamped area. I am going to make sure that there's embossing powder on everything, and I will heat this up with my heat tool, melt that embossing powder. And now I'm just going to take that modern alpha cover plate, and I'm going to take this over to my die cutting machine, and it's going to cut those alphas out with a sparkly gold on them. It is amazing. Now, what I wanted to do was take my Versamark pen and just go into the inside of those letters of the word my, and then adhere some of that embossing powder, that same gold embossing powder, to the insides of those letters and heat it up so that now that word my has got some gold on it too. And now you can see these white alphas with the gold embossing on them. Oh my gosh, this is everything. I love these things. I will be doing this forevermore. I absolutely love this technique. I think it is brilliant. And I just think it adds such a soft and beautiful detail to this layout. I am going to pop all of those letters up on some foam adhesive and see what a nice dimension that adds to the layout and to the title. So the title is going to say My Sister. Now I'm going to stamp out this label with some of that dark pink ink, and I'm going to use the sentiment Remember This inside of it. So I'm just looking at this stamp set and I'm like, what? There's so many sentiments on here, so many phrases that you could use inside of this label. I love it. So I'm putting that back inside of my MISTI, and I am going to just ink that up so that it's a really nice solid impression. And then I will take that phrase that says Remember This. I am going to position it on the label first and then pick it up with the door of my MISTI and ink it up with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink and stamp that out. I love this ink because it's just like really crisp, and it's going to leave a really nice sentiment stamped there. I'm just going to make sure that I've got it stamped nice and clearly, and then I'll just take a little bit of foam adhesive and add that over to the right of my photo. And so then I'm just going to add a little bit of journaling from my computer. So I just typed this out using Microsoft Word, and then I took my Tim Holtz trimmer and I cut strips for the journaling, and now I'm going to add a little bit of that same foam adhesive that I used for the word sister on my journaling pieces as well. So I'm going to just stick those down, and you'll just see it just adds such nice dimension to that area as well. So now we've got dimensional florals, a dimensional photo. The title is partially dimensional with those alphas. I love the pop of dimension in this layout. I think it just adds to I don't know, just the interest of the whole layout. Okay, so now I wanted to take that little tiny heart from the Roma Alphas set, and I wanted to just stamp out some little hearts, some really nice faint little hearts here and there on my project. So I'm going to do 3 little hearts. They're subtle, but it just adds just a little bit of extra detail, and I love that. So now all I have to do really is take my scissors and trim off the florals. I just kind of wanted them to make it look like they were going off the edge. So I'm just going to trim those off with my scissors just by flipping my layout over, and then that is going to be it for my project. I love how this turned out, and these stamps and dies from this release are absolutely amazing. They are a scrapbooker's dream. So I love how this turned out. I really do. Now I am going to switch it up to a card. I took a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock and I cut out a stitched rectangle, and I'm going to just blend on a little bit of tumbled glass ink in blue. I just want a really, really, really subtle blue background. I don't want a ton of blue, just a little hint. Now I'm going to take the word thank from the Confetti Borders 4x6 stamp set, and I am going to use that as part of my sentiment on my card. So you can see all the florals that I still have from stamping these out. I'm just kind of getting a general idea of what I want to do here. I'm thinking I want to have a little cluster of flowers over here onto the left side, and then I want to use the word thank, and then I want to use more of those gold glittery alphas that I still have left to spell out the word you. So my sentiment's going to be thank you. It's going to be a thank you card, and I really love the white alphas with the gold here again on that, just that little bit of a blue background. And I'm just eyeballing where I want that thank word to be stamped. I will just take my pencil and my ruler and mark out just briefly where I want that to be. And you'll just see me taking my ruler here, just make a tiny little pencil mark that I'll erase later. And I just want to make sure I'm getting this the sentiment in the right spot. And now I'll just take that card front, I'll put it into my MISTI. I will swing that door over and stamp out the word thank. I'm using the same pinks, or one of the same pink stamps that ink pads that I used with my florals, so that it all matches up. And I'm just going to stamp that a couple of times to make sure that I have a really nice impression. And I love it. I love how this is going to look. It's actually very pretty. So now what I'm going to do is take the stars, the star border from that Confetti Borders 4x6 set, and I'm going to stamp that out on the bottom of my card front here with my my clear ink, again, my clear sticky ink from Lawn Fawn. I've used my anti-static powder tool there first, just to make sure that my embossing powder only sticks to my ink. I am stamping out that border, and I am going to use that same embossing powder that I've used on my other project today to stamp out these gorgeous stars. Gosh, I love this stamp. I think it's so pretty. And I don't know if you can see it on camera on my video here, but these are just the sweetest, tiniest little stars, and they're so sweet and adorable. I love it. Now I've melted that, and so now that's some really nice detail at the bottom of the card front. Now I'm just going to pop up my letters that spell out you with that same dimensional adhesive that I used on my scrapbooking layout. And so you can see the card is coming together. This is not going to take me long. I'm going to pop up some of those blossoms on some foam adhesive to give them some dimension. I will stick the leaves down with just my liquid adhesive, and my card front is going to be done. I'm going to pop the card front up onto some foam adhesive, and then that is going to be it. I'm going to put this on a green card base, and my card's going to be finished. Please don't forget to look in the description box below for the links to all of the products that I've used today from the ton, as well as all of the information for the giveaway. And please make sure you click the next person in the YouTube hop in the description link below. I will make it very clear to you there who you need to go to next in this hop. We are all creating projects with this release, and let me tell you, this release is absolutely gorgeous. I love these products, and I think that they are just absolutely so flexible and beyond genius, and I really, really love them. So I hope you enjoyed this today, and I really enjoyed bringing you these projects. I hope you have an amazing day. I have some still shots coming up, and I'll see you again here on my channel. Bye-bye.